What's up everybody, welcome to a new episode of Bass Habits. Today we're going to talk about one of the most iconic bass players in the history of heavy metal, Steve Harris of Iron Maiden. There's not many rock bands that you recognize immediately by the bass sound. Iron Maiden are definitely one of them. Bass player Steve Harris is known for his signature alternate finger picking technique and for his growly and clanky tone, which cuts through the mix really well, making Iron Maiden one of the few bass-driven bands in the history of heavy metal. So let's dive into his style and go through a few key points that will help you get close to his sound. Number 1. The tone. Besides the plucking technique, Steve Harris' trademark tone comes mainly from 3 elements. First of all, you need the Fender Precision bass. Steve has used pretty much the same P bass from day one. You can also get a decent result with the neck pickup of a jazz bass. In both cases, you need to keep the tone knob wide open. The second element are fresh flat-wound rotosound strings. He, or his roadie, changes them before each show. If you can't afford to buy new strings before every show, put your strings into boiling water, add a little bit of hydrogen peroxide and let it boil for 10 to 15 minutes. Dry them up and put them back on, they'll sound like new. Last but not least, a very low action. Having the strings as close as possible to the fretboard will make it easier to smack them around and get an aggressive Steve Harris tone. Number 2. The Gallop. The Gallop is a type of driving rhythm that has been largely used by the band, and with time it has become almost proverbial for Iron Maiden music. A galloping playing style is usually made of an 8th note followed by 2 16th notes at fast tempo. Though you can play this rhythm with any instrument, it sounds especially good on a bass, and combined with Steve's trebly tone, it creates the backbone of most of Iron Maiden's production. The secret is Steve's finger technique. The trick for a perfect gallop is alternating your index and your middle finger, using the index for the main accents. And though it sounds like the strings are being severely beaten, in reality the touch has to be very light. It's not just how hard you hit them, but how fast you hit them. It's like whipping the strings. You do need a lot of practice to master this technique, especially if you want to use it on fast tempos, like for example Run to the Hills. This finger technique is similar to the one used by Geezer Butler of Black Sabbath, and has been covered and analyzed in many YouTube videos. In particular, there's a very good one by French bass player Didier Jérôme. Check the link in the description below. Number 3. Chord sequences. All the most iconic Iron Maiden songs are based around a simple progression made of 3 chords. It's everywhere. If you want to add some Steve Harris into your DNA, you must familiarize with this progression, which is also largely used in rock music and pop. Number 4. The boxes. Another trademark move I want to talk about, it's Steve's ability to bring in a lot of melody to the bass parts. Harris uses mainly 2 shapes, or boxes. Box 1 is an arpeggio made with the root, major 3rd, perfect 4th and 5th. box number 2 is root, 4th, 5th and 8th. The second box has no major or minor quality, so it can be used over both major and minor chords. It works perfectly on the chord progression we mentioned before. It doesn't really matter in the case of Iron Maiden, as the guitars mostly use power chords, but it might be useful for you to know. You can play these boxes all up and down the neck and it will sound okay. Just remember, always start on root. Number 5. Power chords. To give an extra growl to the part, Steve Harris throws in root and 5th or root 5th 8th power chords, normally falling on the 1. He plays the power chords using the back of his fingers, which is quite unusual. Power chords are also used as arpeggios, especially during guitar solos. And this is pretty much all I had to say about Steve Harris. Steve was not only the band leader but also the main songwriter in Iron Maiden. So in a way, the backbone of the Iron Maiden sound is a natural extension of the way he plays bass, which in a world dominated by guitars is quite a thing. And even more than 40 years after their debut album, Steve Harris is still one of the most influential and respected bass players in rock music. Thank you very much for watching. Please give us a like, leave a comment and let me know what you think about Steve Harris. Also, don't forget to subscribe and follow me on Instagram.